Hey guys, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby. Hope you are having a great day, night so far, and thanks for taking some time to join me this evening. What's going on, man? How you doing? Doing well? What's up, Juan? How's it hanging? Just giving it here a second to let some people join in. John, what's going on, brother? Sweet, sweet. So, looks like we got a good amount of people in here already, so appreciate you taking the time. Crypto Jack, what's up, my dude? Juan, Sonny, how's everybody going? So, yeah, figured I would hop into the YouTube live tonight. Kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what's happened this weekend. It's been not, I would say, the greatest weekend in crypto for the most part, with many of things down quite a good amount of crypto down quite a bit this week. Wasn't necessarily the most enjoyable weekend if you are an investor. So interesting to see how this is progressing forward. And wanted to hop in, take some questions, kind of talking about everything else there. Oscar mentioned fantasy football making up for the weekend losses. Yeah, I'm a Jets fan, so we suck, but hopefully the crypto portfolio does better than the Jets, because it's going to be a long season. So we'll see how that moves forward. But if you guys have any questions too to kick things off, I can definitely start it off with definitely start things off with a couple different questions. If you guys have any thoughts or anything like that you're thinking about from the perspective of what's going on in the crypto world, any specific coins that you're looking at, any ICOs, anything like that. Definitely happy to take those and walk through some of those questions. So, Gaston, I guess first question. Gaston mentioned, what am I drinking? Poland Spring tonight because I had way too many beers last night. So, that is just drinking some water at this point in time, honestly. So, first question on crypto, where do I see OMG going? And I'll take OMG. Neo, we can talk about it a little bit, so I'm kind of writing these down mentally in my head. OMG, Neo, Litecoin are some of the ones that I'll kind of talk through a little bit here. So OMG, for the most part, I've been pretty happy with how OMG is hung up. OMG is, if you've checked out my portfolio before, here, I'll just pull it up here. It's definitely one of the major portions of my portfolio. If you're new, this was updated a few days ago, but OMG at this point in time is 23, 24, 25, just kind of depending a little bit on what's going on. I'll throw this in here. So if you've never seen my portfolio before, right now this is my portfolio. I rebalance and I do things like that quite a bit. So rebalance and can put that wherever, but OMG has hung up nicely, I think, in this little bit of a downturn here. So somebody mentioned Cliff High thinks OMG will do a 300 times gain in 5 years. That seems a little crazy to me, quite frankly. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, like here, we'll take a look at the 1-day charts. I mean, here's the 1-day chart so far for Civic. I mean, it's already gone up like 40x. To expect another 300x off of that, I mean, I would love that. I would pay off my house if OMG goes up 300x, but a $300 billion market cap for that's silly. I don't think there's any chance of that. That's a little, 300%, yeah, sure, it could go to yeah, right? Maybe it could go to 3 billion for sure, market cap wise, but I mean, we've already seen some incredible gains, and I still think OMG, just the way it's held up in this downturn, that gives me a lot of confidence that if the market comes back, if things come back, then I think that there's some really, really solid potential there. Because OMG, a lot of crypto has gotten hammered pretty good, and granted, OMG was up to about $13 US or so, and is now down to 11. But still, from where it's been and the way it's held up, I think that's been encouraging. Absolutely. Hey, James, mentioning getting into crypto with confidence watching the videos. Glad to hear that, man. Glad to hear that. If there's anything at all that I could help with, let me know. And obviously, all you guys, let me know how I can help for sure. Somebody mentioned shout out to Amsterdam. What's up, Amsterdam? How's it going? A couple different things from an ICO perspective. So Kyber Network is it's one that I've heard a lot of good things about. Kyber, I believe the white list is closed at this point in time, so I don't think you can get. I'm not on the white list for Kyber, and I don't believe that you're able to get into the ICO at this point in time if you're not in on it. So that's one thing. But I've heard really good things about Kyber. I think a lot of people, I would expect that one if you are on the whitelist. I think a lot of people have said, and there's a couple people that I really kind of really trust in the space and have made some really good calls on ICOs and ICOs that have been successful. And Kyber is one of them that they're putting a ton of money into. So I think that that's impressive, or it's going to be an impressive one from a games perspective, man. Looking at somebody mentioned any rumors regarding OMG Apple FacePay partnership. I mean, if OMG partnered with Apple, then it would go through the damn moon from a crypto perspective. But I have no idea if that would actually be legitimate or not. Another question, Kevin Coyle. Have I looked at the Kin for Kick ICO? That was actually something the Kin Kick ICO. I forget which one is the actual crypto, but with that, I registered for it, and then there was something wrong with my passport picture or something, and I didn't kind of complete it. And I just wasn't. It sounds like a really interesting project, and the huge buildup that they already have in terms of the number of registered users on Kin that they already have is fantastic. It is ICOing, I believe, if I'm not nuts. It's at a $1.2 billion valuation, which will put it in the, let's see here, which will put it in the top, it'll be in the top 10, or it'll be around the top 10. It'll probably jump. I would think it'll jump Ethereum Classic. It'll be a top 10 coin. So that's something that, I don't know. That's a pretty fat valuation, and I guess we'll see. Somebody mentioned the top, and I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this too. So somebody asked, what are these ads are the worst. Somebody mentioned, what are the top, I'm trying to find the questions. What are the top 5 undervalued cryptos to buy as of now? So undervalued cryptos to buy as of now. I mean, it's tough to define, I guess, undervalued in some cases. I mean, is that just like on the actual, and guys, let me know if you have any crypto that you think is like the most undervalued coin. Definitely let me know. Would love to hear it. There's a couple I have my eye on from an undervalued perspective. And I think will do well. So a couple different ones, and one I'm in from the ICO, participated in the ICO, and I think once it gets added to an exchange outside of Ether Delta, I think it should have some success. So Manetha, it's down quite a bit today. It's down 18% today, but it's really only trading on. So Manetha is only trading really on Ether Delta. I think once it gets added to an exchange, it's going to pop through the roof. It's somewhat of an OMG type competitor. It's like a payment processor, enables payment gateway type thing. So that's one that I think is undervalued a little bit right now. It's still a nice pop from the ICO, but I think it's come down. So I think Manetha, once it gets added to an ICO, MTH, or not to an ICO, to a way too many ICOs in my head right now. Once it gets added to an exchange, I think that's going to be something that outside of Ether Delta, it's going to pop nicely. Another one, somebody mentioned DNT. I'm holding DNT right now. DNT's gotten crushed, so I think that is slightly undervalued for sure as well. DNT is another one that's gone down quite a bit. Outside of that, I've heard some things in regards to Navcoin too. I haven't taken a full look, but I've had a couple different people mention Navcoin to me, so I'm going to try to evaluate that a little bit more as well. So Mike mentioned, do I think delisted Chinese coins will be listed on other exchanges soon? I saw a lot of the coins that were delisted, and they were mostly recent ICOs, so that'll be... There were things like Status, SNT. There were things like Civic. They've gotten worked. They've gotten taken off a lot of these Chinese exchanges. So those have been, I guess, delisted. I don't know. Most of the ones 10x pay token was another one that was delisted as well. So many of those are basically on all the other exchanges already. So I think I don't know. It didn't seem like the biggest deal for the most part, and I guess it was somewhat priced in. Just taking a look at some of these questions here for sure. Yeah, Crypto Jack made a nice ride on DNT from 7 to 20 cents. CT looking to get back in. It's a damn good profit, and taking profit is always a nice thing for sure. So good on you for that one. Absolutely. What do I think about Gollum? I'll pull up Gollum here. Let's see where we got our friends over at Gollum. So Gollum had a little bit of a spike in the past 7 days and then kind of shot back down. Went from 48, went from around 20-something cents, 27 cents, all the way up to about 48 cents, and now it's basically back down to where it was previously. For me, Gollum is, it's an interesting project. It's an ambitious project, but I think that I feel like there was a time in some respect where, in the past couple months, where a lot of these tokens, these super ambitious projects and tokens shot up in value. And now people are trying to look at some of these cryptocurrencies, some of these projects and seeing are you producing results? Are you doing anything? Is this going to come to fruition? Are these tokens going to actually be worth anything? And that's something that I think is important to start recognizing. Is I'm trying to for the most part, I'm trying to look and put my investments where I think that there is actually basically where there's actually a project, where there's a product in place, or there's a product in the very near future, and it's not as much about this big grand theory as it is there's an actual product there, and this is going to happen. So I think that's something to be evaluating. Is the market, in my opinion, people are going to start evaluating these cryptocurrencies with a lot more of a fine-tooth comb in the near future, and some of these more ambitious projects might have a little bit of difficulty kind of justifying some of the evaluation. And this is a really good thing too. Actually, I'll pull this up. It's just on my Twitter, but let's see here. Where the hell is it? So this link, let's see if I can get it here. I'll put here. This is if you guys are interested in how to kind of properly value cryptocurrency, this post, there was a conference call, and you can watch the YouTube video. It was awesome. Really, really solid stuff. I would definitely recommend you take the time to check it out. It shares a lot of my sentiments on kind of basically breaking down the crypto asset market into 3 different places: cryptocurrencies, utility tokens, and then crypto securities. And I think and you could see here, different things like Civic or Filecoin or Siacoin, these utility tokens that basically are tied to a decentralized application or to an application, to whatever. Basically calling them quasi securities, not a ton of existing regulation that can govern them. And there's something now that so Ryan Selkis, who presented this, basically said that the problem now is everything is valued as if it's a currency or a store value. And eventually, I think that these companies are going to be valued differently, differently on top of basically these utility tokens are going to be valued very differently. So I'd certainly keep an eye on that for sure. A couple different people mentioned Black Moon Crypto. So I actually did a video on Black Moon Crypto. I'll post a link here. I'll just pull it up if you guys haven't seen it yet. So I did a little bit of a video review on Black Moon. It's something that I'm interested in. I feel like from the perspective of Black Moon, they could compete strongly against Economy, and it's kind of going up directly against Economy. That's the video. So that's the video for Black Moon. And if they have anywhere, I forget off the top of my head the valuation, but if they have anywhere near the valuation of Economy, which is at 185 million right now, they will be able to, I mean, from the actual ICO perspective, it's going to be a multiple, 2, 3, 4x return on that. So I'm pretty confident in Black Moon crypto. I like, that's something that I'm going to look at moving forward, and obviously the ICO is coming up in 2 days, so it'll be cool to see how that one pans out. But I'm pretty positive on that. I like the team. I've spoken to the team. I've actually spoken to the CEO of Black Moon Crypto. So. And James mentioned, I'm not sure if James is talking in regards to Black Moon, but U.S. citizens are actually able to invest in the ICO, but they're not able to leverage once the platform comes out. You're not able to invest in that because they need to be a registered broker dealer, and they're in the process. I believe that's on the roadmap for the next year and a half to get that certification. So same with Economy though. I actually tried to register to be with Digital Asset Array Manager, their DAA, Digital Asset Array Manager, and you can't do it if you're a U.S. citizen, so it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of regulation, obviously, around the U.S., so it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. A couple different people mentioned, so Red Pulse ICO release, I believe it was pushed back. I don't know too much outside of that, but yeah, I believe it was pushed back. I don't know if anybody has any updates on the Red Pulse ICO. Definitely sound off in the comments. Happy to hear those and take those out. And then Syndicator, Charlie Shrem, an advisor to the team. Yeah, I've heard some pretty good things about Syndicator, but I don't heard some good things about Syndicator, but I haven't kind of done a full evaluation on it yet. So I'll certainly keep you guys in the loop if I do that. Yeah, Evelyn mentioned, is Black Moon still open to new investors? It definitely it is. I believe the ICO is September 12th, so on Tuesday, I think around noon or so. But definitely check that out for in a little bit more detail. That should be an interesting one. I think personally, I think there's room there to get a nice bump, even if you're looking at something for short-term profit. I think there's a good room. I think there's good room within that. So I'm kind of putting my money where my mouth is on Black Moon Crypto and participating in that, or hopefully participating in that. So I'm excited about that one. Absolutely. Just taking some of these comments in as well. And so too, guys, so you are aware, on a couple different fronts as well. So if you are new here, definitely hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. So I do the daily recorded videos, and then I do these happy hours kind of whenever I have the chance to just kind of come hang out with you guys, take some questions, talk about what I think is going on in the marketplace, give my thoughts on how things are moving forward and everything of that nature. So if you are new, definitely hit the subscribe button, and if you'd like, share this video, do whatever you'd like to it, but that'd be pretty damn cool. And outside of that too, I actually have so I did another ICO review that is, I'll be posting it either later tonight or tomorrow, just kind of depending. But I did another ICO review on another crypto, so that'll be coming out shortly as well. It's another project. It's actually in the pre-sale phase right now, but I think that one is similar to Black Moon in the case of some of the potential it has. So I'm liking kind of the opportunity within that ICO review as well. So just be on the lookout for that when it comes out, and take a look. And if you guys have any feedback on those ICO reviews, definitely open to it. Or if there's other ICOs you think I should be checking out, but certainly let me know if you watch my Black Moon Crypto ICO review. If you like that, if you didn't like that, let me know, because I'm trying to get better as much as possible. Quinn McFay said, "Can I review Match Pool?" I can certainly look into it for sure. Joe Mar mentioned I need to try some Treehouse beer. Where's the Treehouse beer out of, man? Where's the brewery? So I'm pulling up the Bitcoin charts here right now. We'll take a look at the Bitcoin charts. And obviously, I mean, if we're looking to, I mean, from my perspective, I'm not necessarily nervous. And I talked about this in the latest video today. I mean, if we're just looking at the one-day charts, I actually will pull up the 4-hour charts. But for the most part, I'm not necessarily like nervous, but the past couple days haven't been great. And I think there's some bullish, there's some bearish kind of sentiment as far as the market goes at this point in time. I still am in the point where I'm holding everything from a taxable gains perspective, and I'm just holding on to things at this point. I'm still trying to determine if we're just in a temporary sellout or if this is the start of something greater. But we'll kind of. The market itself, I feel like, is very there's just an uneasy feeling in the marketplace right now, or at least I get from like kind of gauging what's going on with a lot of people. So, and if there is a pullback, it'll be an opportunity. If there is a major pullback, I feel like that's going to be an opportunity where I'm going to try and jump on and put in a good amount of investment here. So that's, if a pullback happens, I'm ready to pounce from an investment perspective. So Joe mentioned, you're new here. How do you get notified? There's a little next to the subscriber button. There's a little bell. Let me see here if I can put that up. I have no idea if you can actually see that, but there's a little notification bell. Just hit that button, and that will subscribe you as well to it. So that's something, absolutely, that if you want those notifications, definitely hit that notification bell for sure. So somebody mentioned that Evelyn, as a newbie looking forward to a real pullback so I can buy more Bitcoin. I wouldn't doubt if a pullback comes just from like the growth over the past month. I mean, it's been a strong month, and August was an incredible month. May, I mean, Bitcoin was $1,000 3 months ago and is up 4x. A pullback, I think, would be probably normal. I wouldn't doubt if we're seeing $3,000 Bitcoin in the near future. Actually, I mean, even to that point, I think it's probably pretty possible for us to see $3,000 Bitcoin in the near future. I think it's somewhat likely that happens. $2,000 Bitcoin in the $2,000, it's going to, that'll be a fairly large sell-off. I'm not sure, but if that does happen, I think that's going to present a pretty significant buying opportunity for sure. Kevin Coyle mentioned, do I reckon it might be worth putting Bitcoin into USDT? So depending upon kind of what you want. Thanks for hitting the bell, man. I appreciate that. That is awesome. You guys hitting the bell, that's fucking sweet. Thank you for that. So depending upon putting Bitcoin into US Dollar Tether, if you guys are familiar with US Dollar Tether, so basically what US Dollar Tether is, I've heard a lot of people not necessarily dismissing it, but there's been some complaints about it that basically there's nothing to back it. But essentially what US Dollar Tether is it's a cryptocurrency that is supposed to be tied to the value of the dollar. So rather than give me a second here. So if you're new to cryptocurrency here, let's see, we'll go down here, we'll take a look. So there's something called Tether, and the symbol is USDT. So, normally what you might do is if you are on GDAX or if you're on Coinbase or whatever exchange you use, you can buy and sell. And then for me, I'm in the US, so if I buy and sell on GDAX, it'll be out of the US dollar, and that'll put my money back into fiat. However, if you're on something like Bittrex, which doesn't deal with the US dollar at all, it only deals with cryptocurrencies, some people might want to, sometimes if you think something bad is happening in the marketplace and you want to sell and you want to get your money out real quick and you want to put something into, put your money into something stable, then like what cryptocurrency can you actually put into something that's stable? There's cryptocurrency for the most part isn't stable. US Dollar Tether, USDT, is something that you can utilize there. And what it essentially tries to do is, if we look here with US Dollar Tether, with the Tether, it literally equals $1. So basically it will like kind of go between, typically it'll go between like $1, maybe like maybe like $1.99. You can see how it essentially is just on a dollar. It's not something you trade. It's something that you use to mirror what a US dollar is, and without having to go back, without basically having to take your money from Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these altcoins into back into Coinbase or in GDAX. So if you're in Bittrex or any of these other markets that have Tether, so they have Poloniex, Tether's on Poloniex, it's on Bittrex, it's on Bitfinex, it's on Binance, whatever. You can use that. You can use US dollar Tether to store your cryptocurrency without having to take it back into fiat. The only thing is, I guess a couple things that you might want to be aware of is I've heard some people talk about potential instability with USDT. So with Tether, I've heard some people talk about there's not really anything backing it, and right now it's fine. It works well for what you need to do. Essentially, it's just a cryptocurrency that costs $1, and it is like a fake US dollar. But some people have talked, I think there's some crazy conspiracy theories out there, or not so crazy conspiracy theories regarding Dollar Tether, and that it's not a very safe store of value. So if you are using, I would recommend if you're doing something with Tether, use it for the short term, but I wouldn't necessarily keep Tether on Bittrex for months at a time or something like that. I would try to avoid doing that. And if it's a short-term trade, like if you see the price of Bitcoin or Ethereum crashing, or you want to sell and take profits because you think things are about to crash, or whatever it might be, Dollar Tether right now is a good place to store your money. And if you think a crash is coming or something like that, or just you want to get out of a specific cryptocurrency. However, I wouldn't keep your money in it long term, and I would just do it for short-term type things, because I've heard some complaints about the instability of it. So that's definitely something to keep in mind there as well. And the one thing too, and I mean, I'm not an accountant. I don't know too much about taxes and things like that. But I don't think, if you guys are, I believe there's really no difference between going crypto to crypto and crypto to fiat for the most part. And it might be by state, or I think it might be by state. But I would talk to an accountant too, as far as that goes, if that's something that could potentially save you money on taxes, or if that's not a big deal. But I think you get taxed, to my knowledge, or my understanding right now, is you get taxed the same whether you're taking profits from Bitcoin and moving it from Dollar Tether, or you're taking profits from Bitcoin and moving it to real US dollars as well. Yeah, Tether is great just so you can keep everything. I think the big utility of Tether is so that you can keep your stuff on the exchange, and you don't have to if I'm basically the big utility here is if I'm trading, let's just say I have OMG, and OMG just spiked, and I want to take my profits, and I want to maybe buy back in lower. What I can do is I can use this, or I can take my OMG, and I can actually trade my OMG for Ethereum or for Bitcoin. And then once I have my Ethereum or Bitcoin, I can just put that into US dollar Tether, all within Bittrex, and not actually have to go outside the system somewhere else. William Fernandez, what up, dude? Watching me today with no power or Wi-Fi due to Hurricane Irma. Well, I hope you stay safe, William. I'm assuming you're in Florida right now, so hopefully you're safe, even though you don't have power or Wi-Fi. I don't know if you're watching me via smoke signal or by carrier pigeon or whatever, but I hope you're okay. I hope anybody who's watching this in Florida is okay. Obviously, crazy weather, crazy kind of stuff going on down there. So hope you're doing all right. Don't let me distract you from your safety, even though I'm definitely not distracting enough for that. So aside from mention, I think the problem is if we have a Bitcoin correction, do we trust US dollar Tether if everybody is running to it? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too is, Dollar Tether is, I think, good short term, but it's not something that it's not something that you want to keep your money in super long term, and I would just be cautious of it. Right now, the utility of it works completely fine. It works as intended, but there might be a point in time where it doesn't. So, yeah, we'll see. William, last charge on your iPhone, so all is good. Yeah, I hope I'm worth the last charge. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm worth the last charge. I might say, as much as I love having you here, I might save my battery. I don't think I'm worth it. So Jin Rumby mentioned, can you declare losses? Yeah, I believe so. I mean, if you can declare losses in crypto, and I've actually used, I've been playing around with this a little bit, but Bitcoin tax. If you guys aren't familiar with this, Bitcoin tax is a kind of a cool thing. I just import a bunch of, import my transactions from the exchanges, and it calculates your taxes for free up to 100 transactions. I actually paid for the kind of the annual license fee. I think it was like $20, so I paid for that. Jin Rummy mentioned, so quick disclaimer, I'm not an accountant, but for the most part, I believe, with the classification of how cryptocurrencies, at least in the U.S., you declare gains, you declare losses. If you lose everything, then you declare those losses, and it is what it is. So hopefully you don't lose everything now. But Evelyn, does the IRS run that site? I don't know, but as far as things go, it's not a fun conversation to have with anybody. But I don't want to fuck around with the IRS. I don't want to fuck around with crypto or with taxes. And I forget what it was with Coinbase, but I think they only had, I believe in 2016, they only had 800 people register gains on gains associated or taxable gains associated with Coinbase. And they have 10 million users on Coinbase right now. Granted, that's probably grown probably tenfold in 2017, but it's it's nuts. It's nuts. So if you have Coinbase, I think, honestly, I don't know all that much, but I think if you have any type of cryptocurrency on your tax returns, you're going to get like flagged. I bet there's some type of thing there where they're going to pretty much flag you and look at a fine-tooth comb. So that'll be pretty. I just want to make sure I don't screw it up for sure. I've as of now made some money in the markets this year, so we'll see. Everyone else is not Patriots. Anybody have any questions on any specific cryptocurrencies too? Definitely let me know. If there's anything you want me to pull up on the charts on Coinigy, I can certainly do that as well. Fuck the job. And just going over these comments as much as possible. So Ido, as far as the Fibonacci retracements and things like that, I'm not the best from a technical analysis perspective. I would recommend the one guy I think in this space, and I'm looking at these as they come up. We got Neo, Civic, Gollum, Omise, or OMG, Monero, Zcoin. Okay, so we got some good ones here. But the one thing I will mention let me see. Where am I at? Oh, check out Node Investor, Node Investor. No relation to him at all, never even spoken to him, but he's from a technical analysis perspective, I think he's one of the more enjoyable people to watch one of the more enjoyable presenters to watch on YouTube. Yeah, Node Investor, Crypto Jack. And I actually bought his course on technical analysis, and I've just kind of walked through just to teach myself a little bit more as well from a technical analysis perspective too. I'm trying to get different viewpoints and learn about kind of what other people are thinking, what other people are saying. So yeah, Node Investor, I would say check him out from a technical analysis if you want to learn how to do Fibonacci retracements and things like that. Another thing somebody mentioned was Coinigy being available in the US, and it is. So what I'll put the link here. So that's it's the referral link for, I think, a free trial for Coinigy. It's 14 days, and then after that, I think it's like $15 a month. I like it. It basically, if you are not familiar with Coinigy 2, it pulls up, let's see, basically gives you a lot of different exchanges. You can integrate your wallets into it as well, or your exchange accounts, and you can run trades through this. You can run trades through this, and you could see kind of a variety of different things. You can handle the charting however you want. So I like Coinigy, especially with some of, like, GDAX is okay, and I like their user interface, but like Bittrex, the charting on Bittrex kind of sucks. So that is what it is. So looking at some of the things. So I will pull up, I'll pull up Neo. So Neo is one that a couple different people mentioned. And this is an interesting one in my opinion right now, at least. Neo. So Neo within the past, let's see. Within the past month or so, has obviously not had the the greatest month with all the uncertainty in China, but with all the uncertainty in China, Neo hasn't had the greatest month in time. But with Neo right now, it had a run from like $10 US all the way up to $50, and now is back down to 23 or something. And a lot of people are looking at this as basically as the front of, as responsible for a lot of the bad news surrounding China and surrounding China and the ICOs. So for me right now, I was in on Neo. I rode the wave up from $6 all the way up to $50, and then ended up selling it around 38 and putting that into OMG. So I took a good amount of profit, quite frankly, on Neo. That was a good trade for me. That worked out really well. But right now, I am kind of out on Neo, not necessarily for any specific reason other than I just think that I want to wait until the Chinese uncertainty gets figured out and they are able to come to some type of, I just want more clarity from a regulation perspective of how things are going there. So another thing, somebody else mentioned Civic. I did a video today on Civic, but let's pull it up here. So if you didn't see what happened with Civic, essentially Civic got added to Poloniex. You can see right now that Civic was, from an Ethereum trading perspective, was trading at around 0.0012, around 1.3 Ethereum. And now it's trading up at about 0.0018. So it had let's see, what type of gain was this? This was when the news came out that it got added to Poloniex, it gained about 40%. It's settled down now around 30. Let's see here. It's settled down now around 35%. So this is really specifically in regards to Civic was added to Poloniex. That's kind of somewhat of a big deal. And it's the first crypto that's been added there for a while. Really in September so far. It's been, for me, I was in on the Civic ICO. I haven't sold any. I've held on to it. It's been a strong gainer for me at this point in time. I like Civic. I think that it has good potential. It's one of the ones, I have the application on my I have the app on my iPhone. I've used the app in its ICO. I know that Civic has been used for, I think it was OX, the 0x project, their ICO. I think Civic is going to be used more and more for identity verification in future ICOs. And I also think that if there is an opportunity for blockchain security and identity verification to start coming to the forefront and prominence, the Equifax hack that just happened, where basically every freaking my social security number is probably, if it's not out online somewhere already, it's probably going to be out there in like 2 weeks or whatever. And so is 130 other million Americans. So I think Civic has an opportunity to, even if it's just from a marketing perspective, kind of capitalize on that nicely. So I'm interested to see how Civic can pull that off there as well. So Kenrick asked, any advice for investing long term? This is kind of what I'm for the most part looking at this in a long term view. So I'll say a couple different things from the long term investment perspective. I think that there is a lot of opportunity right now to make money with some of these smaller cryptocurrencies. So whatever it is, whether it's ICOs, it's almost scarily easy. It's almost scary easy. I don't even know what I'm talking about. It's almost scary easy right now to double, triple, quadruple your money in some of these ICOs. Like, it shouldn't be that easy to double your money, but it's happening. And it's happening pretty quickly in a lot of cases. Like Manetha, you could double or triple your money if you got in on the ICO there. Something like an OMG or a lot of these cryptocurrencies, you can double, triple your investment right now within these ICOs or within some of these smaller cryptocurrencies. I don't know if that window of like incredible gains is going to last forever. If you think about any other marketplace on the planet where like those type of gains are going to last, it's tough. So I think for me, long term, I'm looking at trying to utilize smaller cryptocurrencies and the opportunities to make money in certain ICOs, and then move a lot of those profits into Bitcoin and into Ethereum, which are two cryptocurrencies, and potentially into Litecoin or into a privacy coin as well. Basically into cryptocurrency that I think has a really solid long-term potential, because while you can make money in a lot of these smaller cryptocurrencies in these ICOs, it doesn't necessarily they're going to mean that they're going to be around forever. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't mean that they're going to be around forever. So I think that you need to, I'll pull this tweet up here from Jeremy Gartner, and I'll talk a little bit from a long-term investment perspective, but I think that there is a window right now to make a ton of money in the short term on some of these ICOs and some of these smaller cryptocurrencies. But long term, I think the market is going to move more and more towards not necessarily consolidation, but kind of consolidation. Like there only needs to be so many cryptocurrencies. There only needs to be so many of these utility tokens actually don't have utility. And that's the point too that Jeremy Gartner makes here is if your utility token is simply a means to use your platform and could be replaced by either Ethereum or by Bitcoin, it's going to zero, which I think is an aggressive statement, but at the same time, somewhat true. And that's kind of what I'm using in terms of my investment strategy now, or what I'm thinking about is that you can make money in a lot of these ICOs, like I said, but that doesn't mean that they're going to last forever and they're going to stay on an upward trajectory forever. There's a good possibility that some of these ICOs and some of these cryptocurrencies that have had incredible returns or whatever, they're not going to be around in 2 or 3 years, or they're going to have like no valuation in comparison to what they have right now. So I'm looking at taking profits, and maybe, when I take profits, I can leave a little bit on the table to, keep that as something to let it run and let it ride, but try to move a lot of those profits from those ICOs or from those smaller cryptocurrencies into something like Ethereum or into something like Bitcoin, which I think has really long-term significance and value. So, Coin McFace mentions that there are several that are ridiculously cheap, like MCO and even Pay Token. Cheap relative to is the question, and that's one thing that I think is something that a lot of people, and I don't even know, quite frankly, if that's the point there. But just to clarify, since I know there's some people that are fairly new to cryptocurrency that are probably watching this right now, but the one thing in a lot of cases that you really want to understand and you want to look at if you're investing is just because the price might be low doesn't necessarily mean that there's a huge So a lot of people see Bitcoin and they say, "Oh wow, Bitcoin is $4,000. What if I invest in Ripple, which is only 21 cents? If Ripple becomes as valuable as Bitcoin, then I'm going to be a billionaire." Unfortunately, that's not how it works, because you have to consider not just the price, but the circulating supply, and then that ultimately gives you the market cap. So you want to look at the market cap really as kind of the easiest determining factor of if something is undervalued or if something is cheap, in my opinion, because people like to say, "Oh, these are the best coins under $1, or these are the best cryptos under $5. I don't give a shit if something's under $5. I don't give a shit if something's under $1. What's the market cap? Something could be, let's look at something that's fairly expensive, and let's take a quick look. So, I don't really like Veritasium. I don't have anything in Veritasium, but let's just use Veritasium for an example. It's $84. The market cap, though, is $170 million. So even let's say if you have $1,000 and you want to buy Veritasium versus buying something else, versus buying Economy, which is $1.84, you can buy with $1,000. You can buy a fairly similar amount of Economy or you could buy basically $1,000 of Economy, $1,000 of Veritasium. But if the market cap is what has to move, not necessarily the actual price of, or the price of the coins obviously has to move, and that's what creates the movement in the market cap. But that's ultimately where the room for growth is if you have a smaller, $70 million market cap coin or something like that, and it moves to $400 million. That's where you're going to get your gains, not necessarily the price under $1, under $5. Doesn't really make that much of a difference, quite frankly. Bob mentioned saving hundreds of dollars on Coinbase GDAX fees. Glad you found that video helpful, Bob. I think a lot of people have found me through that video, so I'm glad I made that, and I've heard some good things about that. I like GDAX a lot. I know some people don't like Coinbase, but it is what it is. For me, it functions well. Sometimes it can be a pain in the ass to get it set up and get everything verified, but once it gets verified, you're pretty much good to go, honestly. So I like Coinbase. I like GDAX. And if you saw somewhat recently, let me see. I can even pull this one up on Twitter as well. Let's see here. So Coinbase, let me see if I could find it. There we go. So I know a lot of people sometimes don't love Coinbase. The one thing I will say, and I think this is true for any exchange, quite frankly, but they're ramping up hiring. You can see here for their customer support, 2x by the end of September and 3x by October. I think it's basically been impossible for a lot of these companies to keep customer support, and this goes beyond Coinbase, but good on Coinbase for actually recognizing that and hiring support people. I mean, look, they're gonna have 200 customer support staff in October, which is pretty. Hopefully that'll open up the doors for for the support. But basically, when you look at the overall just growth in the cryptocurrency market, you can imagine that these people, these exchanges really had no, we're talking about we'll do year to date. Like the cryptocurrency market went from being worth $17 billion to being worth at one point, $180 billion. And look at the volume too. The 24-hour volume has shot through the roof from being less than $1 billion in volume a day. Most of the time, less than a couple hundred million. Now you're talking about 5, 8, 7, usually over $5 billion in volume a day. So that means there's a lot more people trading. There's a lot more customer support tickets, and hiring, I'm sure, has been a nightmare. So not to defend bad customer support, but if I was an owner of one of these, if I was an executive at one of these exchanges, that's probably had to have been keeping them up like freaking crazy, seeing that happen for sure. Somebody just mentioned Leonardo, my dude, who's been here forever since the beginning. Still hanging on to that Manitha. And yeah, for me right now, Manitha's taken a dip. I can pull that up actually in Coinigy. Let's see if I can pull this bad boy up. If it's in Coinigy, I should be. Actually, I don't think Manitha's in Coinigy yet. It's only on Ether Delta. But so if I pull up Manitha, that was one of the ICOs that I participated in fairly recently. It's down 17% on the day, so it's getting its ass kicked today. But I'm holding on to it. It's only being traded really primarily just on Ether Delta right now, and it's the top traded crypto on Ether Delta. And I think once I don't remember exactly. I believe 2 weeks after the ICO ended, they were going to have it on. Manitha mentioned they wanted to have their crypto on certain exchanges. So I'm holding at least until they go on to whether it's Liqui, if it's Bittrex, if it's anything. I want to wait till they hit an exchange, because I think once it hits an exchange, it's going to pop really, really nicely. Granted, it already had a good pop up to 40 cents at one point in time, which is almost twice the value it's at right now. But it's been a little bit of a slow bleed. Evelyn mentioned she paid 26 cents for it. It's down a little bit from that for sure, but at the same point in time, I don't think that this price point right here, this 40 cents, is going to be the highest of Manitha ever. I think once it hits an exchange, it's going to be fine, and that's why I'm holding. So that's just me. I know some people that I kind of trust and know in the space took profits around here and just used it to flip into another ICO. So I know some people that took profits pretty quickly, made a 3x gain, wiped their hands, and they're saying, see ya. But I'm going to hold for now and kind of ride it out and see what's good. Yeah, Alex mentioned Manitha recently got clearance from their lawyers that it's not a security. I would agree. I think, for the most part, and I do believe it's going to get listed. When it does get listed, it's going to be a pop. You could look at Civic when that got listed. You could look at basically any of these cryptocurrencies. When they get listed, they're going to pop. So even if you're just looking for a trade or a sellout, then that's a good place to be at. I don't remember the exact ICO price, Georgios, but I want to say it was like 10 or 23. It was cheap. It's much cheaper than it's above its ICO price now, by a decent amount. Somebody mentioned, would you sell silver and gold to buy Bitcoin? For me personally, I'm also a young guy, so take that with a grain of salt. But I'm not a big gold guy. I don't know. Gold doesn't appeal to me. Silver doesn't appeal to me. I just don't those aren't appealing gains for me. It's basically it's not an appealing investment for me. So I think there's a lot more value, or I think there's a lot more potential gain in cryptocurrency. I'm also heavily invested in the stock market, but it's mostly mutual funds and ETFs and kind of low-cost ETFs. I use Betterment.com, Wealthfront as well, and then Fidelity. So, but I've never put $1 into gold. I just I don't know. To be honest, it's not an appealing thing at all for me. Upcoming ICOs that I like. So one ICO that's coming out that I made a video of. So if you guys are going to be around later, I might post this a little bit later tonight. But this is another one that I just did. I recorded a video about earlier today. Haven't edited yet, but Engine Coin I think is an interesting one. It's a cryptocurrency for gaming. I did a similar video on them to what I did with Black Moon Coin, or Black Moon Crypto. So I would take a look at Engine Coin. It's an interesting one, and there's a couple others that I'm taking a look at, and I'm having some meetings with some guys this week to kind of discuss ICOs that are on the horizon. I think the big thing too is you got to be fairly ahead of the game on a lot of this now, because so many of these ICOs either have whitelists or they have registration period. So it's like, yeah, the ICO date might be October 1st, but if the registration ends September 10th, you're screwed. So that's you gotta be pretty far ahead of the game on ICOs. Alex mentioned, can I check out Siacoin? For sure, dude. Happy to check out Siacoin. Let's see, SC. What do we got here? So Siacoin has not been I invested in Siacoin a long time ago. Not a long time ago, two months or so ago. And Siacoin's has not done well in the past, let's say, month or so, maybe longer than a month. It's kind of been chilling out down here. I have nothing against Siacoin, but it's in a heavily competitive space right now. We can take a look. Siacoin was one of the hot cryptos of May and June, where Siacoin went from being worth about $10 million, less than $10 million, to being worth $500 million, $500 million at its peak in mid-June, and has basically been on a free fall since June and really hasn't had any type of recovery. For me personally, until it shows that it can do anything other than go straight down, I'm not in on Siacoin. And again, I think there are a lot of companies trying to solve this decentralized storage, whether it's renting storage, if it's anything like that. There are some big companies now attacking that. Filecoin is another one. If you guys are familiar with Filecoin, that company got a ton of money, ton of funding, I think the most ever. So for me, Siacoin is something that until it really proves long term that I can handle things and can beat out the competition, I think there's better places to put your money, if I'm being quite frank. Kendrick mentioned, why do a lot of ICOs ban people from the United States? Because for the most part, and Pablo mentioned that as well, ICOs in the United States. So some ICOs, like Civic ICO, you could be in the United States. It wasn't a problem at all. Status, SNT, you could not be in the United States. And the only thing, a lot of companies, the only thing they'll do is they'll just put out an IP restriction, so blocking IPs from the United States. So some people just use a VPN and then go from there. And just VPN in from another country. Yeah, I'll try and check out Verge in a second. Moscow Mule for sure. But why do they block the U.S.? Why do they block U.S. investors? And it has to do with regulations. So they don't want to open themselves up to the SEC. And they think, and companies believe, and probably rightfully so, that if they sell their tokens, especially if it's a token that promises some type of return, if they sell the tokens to U.S. citizens, then if their token is deemed a security, then the SEC can come after them. So they want to avoid the SEC coming after them so that they don't register, they don't allow U.S. investors to participate in the ICO. That's really the big thing there for sure. Chris mentioned pound the like button. I do appreciate that, man. Anybody who's subscribed, and I know a lot of people are all my homies here and see you guys all the time. But if you are new, hit the subscribe button. And if you guys have been here for a while, and I think A couple people were talking about it before, but hit the little bell button if you want to get notified anytime I go live or if a new video comes out. So definitely try that as well. So I'll pop over to Verge. Moscow Mule was mentioned in that one. So Verge is spiked up quite a bit. And I mean, that's a pretty aggressive move on Verge's part as far as the overall spike goes. That's had a really, really nice move. I'm not in on Verge right now. I might have to do a little bit more due diligence, quite frankly. Obviously, if you've been invested in it in the month of August, I mean, that's you've tripled your money, so that's pretty damn good. I like that. But I'll have to do a little bit more due diligence, quite frankly, on Verge for you, Moscow Mule. So RAS mentioned, how do I balance crypto with a regular job also in sales? Shout out to sales guys in tech sales. So it's distracting, but you just have to, I think, you just got to, if you're going to focus on one thing, focus on one thing. If you're going to focus on the other thing, focus on the other thing. So I try to, when I'm focusing on crypto, I focus on crypto. When I'm doing my job, which is what's paying my bills, I need to do my job. But it's really, this stuff is about as addicting as it gets with the crazy movements and everything like that. So it's for sure. It's tough to do. So somebody mentioned Evelyn and a couple other people. Yes, the Filecoin ICO is closed, and it was using a tool from Angel. I believe it was called CoinList, and it was only for U.S. accredited investors. So that is, I'm not an accredited investor, quite frankly, but that was big money. That was VC institutional money going into that. So Toyota Corolla mentioned what's my thoughts on Gollum. I'll pull up the homies over at Gollum. We talked to let's see here. So similar to Siacoin, Gollum had that. Gollum was kind of like one of the coins of basically Gollum and Siacoin were like a couple of the top 20 coins back in May, back in June. Had a really nice run May and June, and then really cooled off in July and August. And then Gollum had a spike in regards to, if I'm remembering things correctly, within the past couple of days, basically on a partnership with OMG. The partnership itself, they had Gollum spiked when there was rumors, or they're talking a lot about partnerships of OMG, and I think a lot of people just said, OMG is now a big dog in the space. OMG is doing really well. If Gollum can kind of hitch their wagon to OMG, then this will be really beneficial for Gollum. And they had I believe it was like a joint, not necessarily a press conference, but I forget exactly what it was. But they had a joint presentation with Gollum or with OMG, and nothing really was announced. So you see this spike here from when that happened, and then you just basically see this slow sell off again. So that's a news-driven event there for the most part that I think people are kind of pumping up, and now it's just kind of dumped since then. I'm not in on Gollum at this point. It just seems like it's cooled off, and I've been trying to invest in the cryptocurrencies that have like a lot of hype behind them in some sense and a lot of excitement behind them. And once I think something cools off, it's kind of hard for it to get legs back under it. So somebody mentioned Black Moon with the number of paid reviews. And I actually did. So I did a sponsor video for Black Moon. So for full transparency there, I did a sponsor video for Black Moon. They reached out to me. They reached out to me directly. I guess they have a decent sized marketing budget, and they're just trying to spread the word out there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily, the project itself is appealing to me. I'm invested, or I'm going to be invested within the BMC. I'm going to be invested within the BMC crypto. So I think the project itself, I kind of like what's going on. I mean, I think that the fact that they have an existing company and team in place that has expertise. I've been at conferences that these guys have been at. I've kind of seen them around. So I've talked to the CEO of Black Moon, had a chance to to speak with him and to verify everything and get a good feel for it. He was really responsive. So that is just because somebody is necessarily like paying for. I've seen their advertisements on AdSense as well. So I mean, I guess they're just trying to generate some hype behind the project itself. I think that's also important too. Is honestly hype behind a project as much as possible, and starting off with a reasonable market cap. And I believe Black Moon is doing that. So we'll see. Hopefully, I think there's a lot of people that are looking to get in on that project, and myself personally, who's going to be personally invested in the project. I want to see it succeed, and I think it has a good shot, but we'll see how it goes. So how I mentioned, do I think the market will recover next week? I don't know necessarily where we're going to be at, and I think a lot of it's going to trail Bitcoin and what Bitcoin can do for the most part. But I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do think that there's some kind of negative feelings for the most part in the market cap. In the market basically since we've been in September, it's been kind of red. It really isn't this. Basically, this line is pretty much straight downhill right now, and if it continues, it's not going to be great. I think if we break $4,000, $4,000 for Bitcoin, that's going to be seems like somewhat of a psychological barrier there, which I don't think would be a great sell-off. But for right now, I'm holding, and I'm not selling anything. And if I did sell, it would be to buy back in at a lower, at a lower rate. But I'm not selling at this point in time. Just gonna kind of hold and see what happens. Just because I can't really make a super accurate determination one way or another at this point in time. Jason mentioned, can I live stream when I'm buying Black Moon? I think I'll probably honestly I think that's while I'm at work at lunch. So I don't know if I'll be able to live stream that, but if I can, I'll try. But I think I'm probably going to be at work on lunch, so I don't know if I'll be able to live stream that one, unfortunately. Just going through some of these comments, so sorry for trying to take a little bit of a breath. So Sumit mentioned a 50 Litecoin running at a loss of $800 right now. Should I sell or wait? I would, for me personally, I'd wait. But for me, I'd wait. Don't take this. You could take this as one way or another. For me, for the most part, like crypto could go to zero easily, but within the cryptocurrency market, there's going to be times where your investment is going to go down by hundreds or thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. You have to be comfortable with crazy volatility, because just as how incredible crypto is, where you open up your Blockfolio app and you see 25, 30% gain, 50% gain one day, you're like, wow, this is the best thing in the world. Same shit happens the other way around. You can open up your Blockfolio app and see, if you have $10,000 in crypto, it's pretty easy to open up Blockfolio and see $10,000 and then see it down $3,000 in one day. That's very possible. You have to be comfortable with that, and you just have to kind of like mentally prepare yourself for it for sure. So somebody mentioned, how does the Black Moon ICO work? And this is kind of the similar. I'll just kind of go on most ICOs, but essentially what happens is you'll send Ethereum to an address, and then from there they will send you, they have a smart contract on their side of the house, and they'll credit you crypto back. So that's kind of how it works for the most part. But at this point, guys, I'm actually going to edit the video that I did for Engine Coin and kind of get some things rolling. Definitely, if you are new here, hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. If you've been subscribed for a while, if you've been around, I really do appreciate your time. You kind of hanging out and talking with me today. Hit that notify button as well. That'd be awesome, just so you can get the stuff that I post on a consistent basis. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you ever need anything, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on my website. Please let me know. But had an awesome time speaking to y'all tonight. I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you're dialing in from. Thank you so much for your time. Rob from Crypto Bobby signing out. Peace, guys.